Stay the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Do you care about Brooklyn Beckham? No, me neither, but he's on the front of 2 national newspapers and apparently he's fallen out with his dad. Why doesn't David just cut him out the will and he'll come crawling back? The Daily Express: 50,000 illegal migrant arrivals since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. There are several big migrant stories knocking around, including the fact that we've lost 150,000 care workers. A lot of stuff doing the rounds about the attacks on A&E nurses as well. People saying long waits are on the right, are causing it. We've got all of that and loads more. Don't miss Late Edition.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome to Patrick Christys Tonight, Late Edition, breaking right now.
50,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the English Channel since Sir Keir Starmer came to power.
Yes, another grim milestone in the channel, and it is on the front now of the Daily Express. PM's scandalous failure sees channel crossings landmark hit a record in 401 days. But what about this promise?
To go after the criminal gangs, to smash the gang networks.
To smash the smuggling gangs.
Smash the gangs.
To smash the gangs.
Yeah, not really words out, has it? Meanwhile, Kevin Badenoch has suggested creating a Calais jungle in the UK to house migrants. What do you make of that? In other news, what does President Trump think of Russia?
Massive country. I think they have 11 time zones, if you can believe it.
Is that true? You see, we don't know. People are slugging him off, right? And it's, yes, apparently it's true. They have 11 times. Anyway, President Trump has said that he will try to recover Ukrainian territory from Russia ahead of his Alaska meeting with Vladimir Putin. And finally...
And it is all but over! Goal to Great Britain. Awesome. The gold medal!
We are the best tuggers in the world. We are. Oh, they didn't like me making that joke, did they? Cut me off. Anyway, joining me this evening, we've got the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. We've got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth and GBNews contributor and comedian Leo Kearse. But first, let's get your news with Katie Bowen.
Patrick, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 2 minutes past 11. More than 50,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the English Channel illegally since Sir Keir Starmer came to power, GBNews can exclusively reveal. The figure was reached today when a further 430 migrants made the journey from France. Last day, a partial deal to return a small number of small boat migrants back to France became operational. Since then, more than 1,500 migrants have crossed to UK waters. A Home Office spokesman said that through tougher legislation in the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill, the government is strengthening the security of our borders. US President Donald Trump says that he will tell Vladimir Putin to end his war in Ukraine during his meeting with the Russian leader on Friday. The president described Friday's summit as a feel-out meeting. He added that some land swapping will happen for the good of both Ukraine and Russia. The president went on to say that he wants to set up a meeting between Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that he would try to get some territory back for Ukraine. The Telegraph newspaper are reporting tonight that Zelensky is prepared to cede territory held by Russia. Well, the president made those comments about the war during a press conference where he announced that he's deploying National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. as part of his plan to, quote, rescue the capital city from crime. The president declared it a liberation day for Washington, D.C., saying the city will be cleared up very quickly. During the president's announcement, members of the Free D.C. organisation held a rally outside the White House against the measures. Israel has killed a prominent Al Jazeera journalist it accuses of leading a Hamas terror cell in Gaza. The IDF alleged that 28-year-old Anas al-Sharif was a terrorist who posed as a journalist, citing intelligence and documents found in Gaza as alleged evidence. Al-Sharif was killed along with 4 colleagues in a targeted Israeli airstrike on a media tent outside a hospital that killed 7 people in total. Al Jazeera said the attack was a desperate attempt to silence voices in anticipation of the occupation of Gaza. 3 teenagers have been arrested over the murder of a man at a seaside resort. Kent police said the man in his 40s died after being attacked during an altercation on the Isle of Sheppey on the North Kent coast. A police cordon has been set up in a large clearing behind the beach in the Laysdown-on-Sea resort. 2 boys aged 14 and 15 and a 16-year-old girl are being questioned over his murder. And detectives investigating a major fire which destroyed a historic former hotel in Worcestershire have arrested 2 girls. West Mercia police said that the 13 and 14-year-old had both been released on bail as part of its inquiry into damage caused to the Grade 2 listed Raven Hotel in Droitwich Spa. Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service said 8 fire engines and multiple specialist vehicles were deployed to tackle the fire, which did not lead to any casualties, but totally destroyed the building yesterday. Officers remain at the scene and are asking people to stay away from the area at this time. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Patrick.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome along to Late Edition. Let's whiz you through all of Tuesday's front pages. The Daily Express, 50,000 migrant boat arrivals under Labour. So it's 50,000 in the 401 days since Sir Keir Starmer was elected as Prime Minister. The Daily Telegraph, Kiev ready to give up land for peace. Well, interesting in this, Boris Johnson actually did say about a year ago that this would ultimately have to be the solution. Volodymyr Zelensky is going to have to give away a lot of territory in order to stop the war. You know, how much is the question? What's going to happen there? We'll probably talk about that a little bit later on. The I paper, don't trust Putin. Starmer warns Trump. Interesting, because Putin's probably warned Trump not to trust Starmer. But Zelensky cut out of Crunch Ukraine summit. The Metro. Now, this story is on 3 national newspaper front pages. 11 attacks a day on A&E nurses. It's a surge, really, in violence towards nurses at A&E. Well, hospitals, isn't it? The Independent, an attack on truth and freedom, they say. They're carrying 2 stories in one here. They say that Israel's killed 5 very well-behaved and well-meaning Al Jazeera journalists, none of whom, of course, have ever done anything wrong. And the Palestine Action Brigade as well. An 89-year-old woman was arrested. I mean, 89, gosh, she's had 89 years to learn what a terrorist organisation is and then not support it on the streets of Britain, really. But there we go. The Daily Mirror, none for the road. Biggest changes for decades as drivers' alcohol limit is reduced in line with Scotland, and of course it has made no difference in Scotland, but that's not to say it won't make a difference over here. And also you're going to have to take eye tests if you're over 70. The Guardian, the truth has died. Global fury as Israeli strike kills journalists. They also go attacks on A&E nurses. The Sun have got a big story about Brooklyn Beckham and his wife Nicola Peltz, I think. There appears to be this monumental feud, which is Brooklyn, who has no discernible talents whatsoever, has cut off his family.
Mind you, he has got one talent. He's married a billionaire's daughter.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the
big story. Which he would not have been able to do had he not been David Beckham's son.
Correct. So everything is going his way. And what I'm looking forward to is the divorce, because then they'll all get back together again, and everything will be fine.
Like a sort of Prince Harry figure. Do you think he'd actually sue for alimony if he divorces this rich daughter?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Beck should just write him out of the will, wouldn't he? Come crawling back. Anyway, the Daily Mail, A&E waits fuel 4,000 attacks on NHS staff a year. And finally, the Times, Trump, I will try to get back some land for Ukraine. Look, let's just start with the Daily Express. Why not? So 50,000 migrant boat arrivals. I had a look. That is the size of Macclesfield. Yeah.
Do the people look the same?
No.
Right.
Actually, they look radically different, Leo.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the problem. I understand we've got a sort of international moral obligation to provide refuge to asylum seekers. Number one, these aren't asylum seekers. These are guys who've come through like lots of safe countries to get here. Yeah. They're economic migrants, or they just want to come here for the gibs, for the handouts. And number two, we don't have a moral obligation to provide refuge to somebody from Afghanistan or Eritrea or the Horn of Africa or wherever it is. We'd have a moral obligation to provide refuge to people from France or Germany or somewhere nearby, our brother countries in Europe. So it's an absolute nonsense that we've got all these people coming here that's going to cause so much social... Our government and our authorities talk about social cohesion. Wouldn't it be better for social cohesion if we didn't have a Macclesfield worth of Afghanistan men?
Yeah, we'll not get the Eritreans, man. But there's one guy, the reason I got my phone out is because this is the kind of person who's coming, right? So when I was in the Calais warehouse, I don't like to go on about, but when I was in the Calais warehouse, there was people that were filming me, right? So one of them then put up a video of him filming me as I was trying to interview them. So I found him on TikTok, and his TikTok is a guided tour of Europe, right? he's been through... He started on Gran Canaria. He got there he's from Libya. He's been all over, seriously. And he's putting in his thing, come to Britain, come to Britain. His latest one is just him walking around a street, So he'll get to Britain eventually. Like in a few weeks, he'll probably get in the back of a lorry or on a boat, and then we'll give him asylum.
I mean, yeah, he's doing the opposite of me, because my Instagram is going to Libya and Afghanistan and stuff. So I think we've done a swap between the two of us.
I think we'd have a much better kind of 11 o'clock show if you stayed in Libya and Afghanistan.
Well, he's in. Look at this. Sorry, it's his latest one. He's in. I think the some kind of terminal there near an airport. He's got time to go to Britain. This was posted. Yeah, I think that's the Eurostar.
Yeah, I'm not really getting sort of, you know, like ravaged by war vibes from this guy. He seems more like sort of gap year.
He's going to get on the Eurostar, come to Britain, and he's going to claim asylum, and we're going to let him. Like, this is just nuts, isn't it?
Some people say there's no safe routes.
Yeah.
But hang on, if you were coming from Ukraine, then we gave free Eurostar tickets to those people to cross from France to Britain. So what's the difference?
They're genuine refugees. They're coming from an actual war, and it's mainly women and children.
The worst war and the worst famine in the world is in Sudan. If you're coming from Sudan,
and why have they got why have they got war and famine in Sudan? Because they've got a culture and a society that doesn't sustain civilization. So what's going to happen when we bring that culture and that society to the UK?
Well, I think that's a bit racist, really, because your average 18-year-old that wants to travel here, that wants to save their life, have a family, maybe care for their family back home.
Why don't they do it in Sudan?
You know, the ones that come from Afghanistan, for example, and Syria is another good example, they overwhelmingly reject the sort of dominant, aggressive Islam at home, and that's why they're trying to escape.
Do they? Oh, they all just happen to be like these perfectly nice, liberal, Western values people who've accidentally grown up in Afghanistan somehow and now want to escape the rigours of the culture that they come from.
You're not exactly an endorsement for Scottish culture, I'll say that.
Well, we have another panellist here. He's called Kelvin Mackenzie.
As if he's the uncontroversial.
Yeah,
well, let's see.
I'm here to make up the numbers.
Yeah, go on. How embarrassing is this for Starmer?
Well, yeah, there's plenty of humour to be had in it all. For Starmer, it's devastating. It means basically that were this to continue like this, I can't believe it will continue like this, but were it continue like this, I guarantee to you he would have the smallest Labour coterie in Parliament in the history of time. We'd be talking about, literally, it might be almost single figures. This is a catastrophe. It shows that a government can't control. And if it can't control, it deserves to be chucked out. And the other thing that I noticed about Starmer is he never says a word about it. He tried the smash the gangs words, and that has been shoved at him. So he's decided to say nothing at all and given it all to Yvette Cooper, who now receives the bucket load on a regular basis. And she looks absolutely drained by this thing. Nobody will turn them back. Labour are done for, and this will also cast a shadow over everything else they try and do. You know, Phillipson talks about white kids not doing very well at school, and various other ministers talk about other things. You know, Kyle talks about technology. None of it cuts through at all. The Express front page, even the Sun, by the way. So the Sun never mentioned any of this. Vote Labour. We won't mention anything about this. Suddenly, they discover that their audience has completely collapsed, and now they mention it all the time. But I'm afraid they'll be done for.
It was the Sun what won it.
It was the Sun what won it. It was the Sun what lost it until they decided that migration was an issue that affected the working classes of this country. I cannot understand why Labour feel they can't do anything about it. It's going to kill them. Well, I'm delighted personally, but I wonder why.
During COVID, somehow the boats, mass immigration, illegal immigration, stopped because of emergency rules, because there was some virus that was highly survivable. And, I don't understand why we can't have the same emergency, like closure of the borders now. This is, I mean, this is more of a crisis than COVID.
Well, also, I'm not being funny, but, those camps, the people in those camps don't give a toss about COVID. They're like shooting each other.
No face masks.
They're shooting each other sometimes. There's like rampant drug use. There's diphtheria. There's like all sorts of stuff.
At least they're going to fit in.
Specialist diseases that come exclusively from the Horn of Africa that have now mysteriously made their way to northern France. But they were worried about COVID. But anyway, I want to squeeze in the Daily Mail front page. A&E waits fuel 4,000 attacks on NHS staff a year. The nurses have received gun threats. They've been knocked out, apparently, been threatened with acid. I mean, this is... just wish grim.
Do you know, if you've ever been to A&E, it is an absolute nightmare. And it doesn't surprise me that this kind of thing's happening, because last time I was at A&E, there were at least 2 people there who were chained to police officers, because apparently what happens is that the people want drugs, and so they go to a hospital, they pretend to be ill, they get held overnight, they get whatever drug they want, and that pleases them. But honestly, I feel desperately sorry for these people. But you could put instead of NHS, put school staff in there. School staff are being beaten up left, right and centre by thuggish pupils. And I don't hear Phillipson saying, this is what we should do, this is what we should... I don't hear any minister say about that. You know, this is terrible, but the NHS can't cope with the number of people going to A&E.
No.
Something has gone fundamentally wrong. By the way, I don't blame Labour. I blame all politicians. There's something gone fundamentally wrong with our A&E. Everybody goes to A&E rather than go to their GP.
Yeah, so just some of the numbers on this then. So there's recorded 4,054 reports of physical violence against A&E staff last year. That was almost double the 2019 figure. Right. It means that 11 members of A&E staff are attacked every single day. That's just in England. What do we do about this, Benjamin, really? I mean, no wonder some of them are quitting, really.
I mean, this story, the Daily Mail story, talks about middle-class patients and their families are driven to rage by long wait times. Well, I don't think that's any excuse.
Not.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's his committing the crime.
Also, I don't think it's that. I don't think
well, you're suggesting it's the middle class. The middle classes are beating up the nurses.
Yeah. The Daily Mail
I've already had enough of this.
The sort of quinoa flying in St Thomas. I mean, that's what the Daily Mail seems to suggest. I don't think that's it. I actually think Kelvin is right, and you can't quote me on that. But you know, when I've been in A&E, they are chaotic places. They're where sort of all the problems of society end up in A&Es. Extreme drug use. You know, I've seen some awful things in there that make you uncomfortable. And you have to think the bravest people in Britain are the ones working in A&E.
One of the last times I was in A&E, I was sitting there and I'd cut my eye open. I've got a scar here, and it was an open wound, and a tramp sat next to me and cacked himself. And then I had to get out.
And that's how we met.
I had to get out. It was that overpowering. It was horrendous, you know. And I had to stand outside the A&E, clear the A&E, which then meant that I missed my call for my appointment, because a tramp cacked himself.
Yeah.
So that's one of my last experiences of A&E, so brilliant, keep it coming. Your views on the fact that basically NHS staff are being battered by middle-class parents.
Yeah, I mean, what's changed? I don't think it's middle-class parents at all. I think that's a misnomer. I think we can't trust anything in the media when it's something like this, because if it's a protected demographic of the community, then they won't say it. The only people they can blame is white middle-class people. So yeah, I don't believe that for a moment. But what's changed in our society over the last decade to make these attacks on A&E workers, doctors, nurses, school teachers, people like ticket inspectors on trains? What's changed in our society over the last 10 years? I can't put my finger on it.
I do think that if you want to like radicalise someone, just send them into an A&E at kind of like 10 p.m. on a Saturday night and just see it, and then they kind of come out there like the most right-wing person.
Well, I've always thought that one of the ways of reducing the waiting list in A&Es was simply that anybody that's drunk is not allowed in. Right? And, you know, and so they're drunk.
That might mean that quite a lot of people die.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, I literally would not care. I would not care if somebody actually was seriously ill because they were turned away at an A&E. I don't care. Why should I worry about the fact that somebody is getting drunk and then the state has to put them right?
If somebody's drunk and they get attacked, or something that happens that's not their fault, like they tried to light a cigarette while they're driving or something. You know, something like that.
Yeah, OK, fair enough. Look, sorry, just before we go off and kill more people on this show, we've done it to the disabled, now we've done it to drunk people. I don't know who else will die next, but be someone. Coming up in just a moment...
I can confirm today that, led by the work of my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, we will be ending the costly use of hotels to house asylum seekers in this Parliament.
Yes, the government promised to close the migrant hotels, but next we'll be revealing where they're putting them instead. This is a big story, this actually, seriously. So they're basically moving them in next door to you. Stay tuned.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Montage, Monday to Thursday from 7 p.m.
You're going to have a lovely app. You can do everything online. You'll have, as a senior citizen, you'll have no problems with the NHS ever again. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, it would be if it were true, but as we got used to with this Labour government, if you scratch the surface a little bit, that the assertion that this is a plan for everyone is patently a nonsense, because if, like me, and the literally, no exaggeration, Nigel, hundreds of thousands of people like me who have either vascular dementia or Alzheimer's, any form of dementia, and there are several kinds, the app is simply not fit for purpose. First of all, you have to put in your email address, then you have to put in a password, and if you get it slightly wrong and think, oh, hang on a moment, it's not sausages and apples, it's carrots and cabbages, and you want to quickly change it so you can carry on, it's terribly complicated. And if you've got dementia, or if you're slightly older, but perhaps not with dementia, or just have a mental issue, sometimes you get digital problems, you get a letter wrong or a number in the wrong place, and you cannot get hold of the prescriptions you talk about, you cannot look at your appointments record, it's just inaccessible. And as far as the community hubs, or as you and I used to call them when we were growing up, cottage hospitals almost. That's great. We've got a brilliant GP surgery just down the road that has nurses, has a brilliant pharmacy, and looks after Sally and me extremely well. So I'm really pleased about that, and they're just a terrific team.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
OK, welcome back to Late Edition. I am getting some quite concerning news coming out of Ukraine, which I'm going to bring to you a little bit later on. I think we might be able to get some footage of it as well. But before that, the Labour government has promised to end the migrant hotels regime. And while on the surface that sounded like a good idea, the question was always, well, where are they going to go instead? And the answer is, as we all knew, but we've now had confirmed, houses of multiple occupancy. Yes, apartments and houses possibly on your street, in your block of flats. Hundreds are now being used in Bolton, and residents aren't happy. I'm joined now by the independent councillor in Bolton, who's backed a protest group. It's David Grant. David, thank you very much. How big a problem is this in Bolton?
But just to give you an idea, it's gone from, quite recently, 170 HMOs to over 720 in the borough of Bolton.
Sorry, just clarify that. There are 720 houses of multiple occupancy in Bolton being used specifically for asylum seekers.
We can't say whether they're specifically for asylum seekers, no, but the number of HMOs has actually grown to such an extent. And it's being felt in my ward in Horwich quite drastically, particularly with the contracts to Serco.
Oh, grief, Serco again. Every single time one of these stories pops up, it's Serco, isn't it? There was a case, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there was a case of these veterans in Bolton recently that I've been interviewing, and they're living in a place called Constellation House, and they've been served eviction notices because the Housing Association has said that they just need the properties back. And I just wondered, this has got it kind of written all over there as well, hasn't it? It just seemed like they're trying to find any possible square inch of land and turn it into an HMO at the moment in Bolton.
I mean, I wasn't directly involved with that, with it being the centre of Bolton. We're more on the outskirts in the leafy suburbs. And our concerns, particularly those of the local residents, are more of the unintended consequences of Operation Scatter, which is, of course, the government scheme through Serco. And that is, of course, the conversion of family dwellings, which are for family houses, into 6-bed HMOs, which, until we brought in Article 4 directions, were permitted development. Of course, what you have, these unintended consequences, what you have is as families move out of these properties because they're served Section 21 notices to leave them, they're converted, which means there are less properties available for families for rental, which drives up the cost of the rental for properties. That in turn means that historical local residents who have been part of the community for generations then have to move out to cheaper areas, which then damages the cohesion of the
massively.
community.
It's always just really unfair. I mean, this is what started happening. Again, we've spoken a bit about, I kind of joked a little bit earlier on about, like, you know, if you kind of want to radicalise someone in Britain, you send them to an A&E at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and watch the chaos, and they might want serious change in this country. But another aspect of it is, well, you get people, especially, by the way, I would say younger people, who have maybe started to get a job, started to pay tax for the first time, got themselves a little flat, maybe with their partner, you know, somewhere for not a huge amount of money just to rent, somewhere like Bolton. And then they start seeing, well, hang on a minute, who else is in these block of flats? And they start realising that those people are getting all for free and are maybe not born and bred in Bolton, should we say, as well. I think it is a big problem. I mean, what can you guys do about it, practically?
Well, we brought in Article 4, which means that going forward, even if they are under six rooms in a property, that we can force it down the planning route, which gives residents a better say. It means that we, as local councillors, can put conditions on these dwellings. Again, what you've got to remember is, of course, what you would have been a traditional family bedroom when it comes to bedtime and the neighbours next door are going to bed at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. But that's their living space. So the TV is on, blaring out. They're having conversations on the phone. So that causes sleep disturbances for the other residents. So it's more about the control of these HMOs to ensure that they're working better.
I've got a lot of time for Bolton, a lot of time for the people of Bolton, and I know relatively well, kind of from Manchester way originally. It just really winds me up when you see places like this that are essentially used as dumping grounds, and like there's no kind of, like, you know, like Bolton culture that's worth protecting. The people of Bolton aren't worth protecting. Their lives shouldn't be made comfortable if it goes. It really just winds me up, and you know. Very often seems to be taking place in the northwest, this stuff, doesn't it? Why don't we try it in the southeast? But anyway, right.
No.
In the southeast, guys.
Pack up.
David, we're going to have to go.
Pack that up.
It's going to kill me. But thank you very much. Take care. David Grant there, who's an independent councillor in Bolton. It really winds me up. God, Coach, this really boils my yaw in this stuff.
Does it? Well, I actually know Bolton rather well because I used to own a radio station there. And I'm afraid that your description of what Bolton is like sits uneasily with what Bolton actually does look like. So your idea also of transferring any problems from Bolton into, for instance, I live in Weybridge, is clearly disgraceful and is clearly going to have to...
How dare you? Most of my viewers will be from around Bolton.
I don't care where they're from. I don't want their... I don't care. I don't want their problems coming into Weybridge, which is getting on rather nicely.
Bolton has been at places like Bolton, Bury, and all of this have been absolutely mullered. They've had half of Mirpur now lives there, and then you've got seriously, you know, and then you've got now that it's like, oh, do you want a migrant hotel? You're getting one. If I have 6, and then you know, have the HMOs.
There's loads of HMOs in London as well, so don't try and pretend that the problem exists solely in your backyard.
They're now moving them out to the places, to the nice leafy suburbs where middle-class people live, as we see in Epping.
Well, hold on, you're one. You're moving to Marlow to escape all the problems.
Yeah. Anybody who can. I feel like I'm on the last chopper out of Saigon. Anybody who can get out of London is getting out. Sorry, Patrick, I know you're staying, but I think he's
moving to Bolton.
Now that it's starting to hurt, now that it's starting to affect, you know, the sort of the chattering classes, the middle classes.
Yeah.
It's going to really cause
but that in itself really winds me up. You know, people could have seen this coming. I mean, it's inherently selfish to think I'm all right, Jack. Everything's okay with me. You think you're not all right, and then all of a sudden it becomes a problem. It's all right. I think we've done our bit now. Jog on. I saw you protesting outside that Migrant hotel, saying that you wanted everyone to stay. Like the people of Muswell Hill. Anyway, Benjamin. So Kemi Badenoch, at the bottom of the Daily Telegraph. Badenoch calls for asylum seeker camps. She wants to turn parts of Britain into Calais-style migrant camps. Apparently.
I mean, I don't think it's a good idea because that would spread disorder, it'd spread disease, it would spread terrorism.
It would contain those things.
Is it racist?
No, I don't think it... No, I don't.
No, that's a good point. Spreading disease.
it would.
Spreading disease.
No, it would, because they're not accessing healthcare. And as you mentioned, obviously they come from a different part of the world. They have different conditions that we don't usually have here. But there's someone I know, a guy called Luai Ahmed, who was from Yemen, and he went to a camp in Sweden. And he describes, he's now a Swedish citizen, and he speaks out against radical Islam and all those kind of things. He describes how the problem with camps in Sweden was that it was basically like being in Yemen. All the ideologies and extremism that he had fled by going to Europe were breeding there, and they would celebrate terrorist attacks. And he, as a closeted gay person in that camp, felt like it was just as dangerous.
Probably
so he talks about how these camps can actually be incredibly radicalising and dangerous, and how they don't try and integrate people into the culture they're moving to, which I think is a massive problem.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think it is dangerous, and we're seeing that in prisons as well. Anywhere you get concentrated populations of people from a certain background, then you get the Islamism and you get the radicalisation, which I think is more of a reason to have tougher borders and not have the camps here, have the camps in Yemen. What happened to the British Empire? We used to go overseas. If these countries can't run themselves properly, we go overseas, we take over Libya, we run it properly. We get Serco can run it. We'll give government contracts. We'll get that.
Clive of India, Ben of India.
Yeah, absolutely. What's wrong with that system? And then they don't need to come here. They're going to have a nice civilized country there.
Does Kemi Badner explain why she believes that a camp is a good idea? I find that...
Well, she might, but it's on page 4 of the Daily Telegraph, and I haven't got that.
No, you haven't got it. GBNews couldn't afford it. They can only afford page 1 and through.
Well, I think it would save a lot of money for a start, because hotels are expensive, and also, obviously, putting them in houses is where other people may well want to live in. So I guess that's the argument. But I'm not sure it's not really...
I find it utterly bizarre that a Conservative leader would come up with an idea like that.
Okay.
Why wouldn't a Conservative leader, and this is the reason why they're at 17 points in the polls and probably likely to implode, I would think, they don't say anything that is conservative. What Conservatives want, they don't want the migrants here.
They didn't bother about conserving Britain when they had 14 years to do it, did they?
Didn't.
I mean, it's almost unrecognisable. Right, coming up in a moment, Labour proves itself to be the slowest kid in the class once again, as Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says that white working-class pupils have been written off. Well, yeah, we know.
We know that.
We know. Some of the front pages for you as well. The Sun have got the big one about this monumental feud between Brooklyn Beckham and his parents. So we'll talk probably about that. And apparently there's big news coming out of Ukraine at the minute, which hopefully I'll bring you shortly. Stay tuned.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The fourth heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain, eventually pushing northeastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across the south slowly edging its way northeastwards across Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius. So a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland. But mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours. But across the south, it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be plenty of blue skies. But once again, some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Late Edition. Now, the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, has confessed that white working-class pupils have been written off by society. And while it's hard to disagree with her, also yet another case of Labour government being the slowest kid in the class. In fact, my next guest has claimed that her party always downplayed, deflected or smeared the issue as, quotes, a far-right talking point. And yet, here we are. I'm joined now by Conservative commentator Chris Rose. Chris, tremendous to see you, mate. Thank you very much for making the time for us this evening, especially so late in the day. And well, here we are, then. So this is the kind of thing that people have been talking about for years. We were called, even you would have been called a far-right racist for daring to point out that white working-class boys were at the back of the class. But now it turns out you weren't far-right, you were just right.
Exactly. I mean, Labour, they seem to be like Microsoft Explorer. It takes them a while to actually admit things or even notice anything. Because I remember reading about this in 2017, the earliest. And I certainly remember reading about it in the 2020. And if you had mentioned this during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, you certainly would have been called a racist, dog whistling to the far right as well. But, you know, it is backed up by statistics. And you know, working class boys have shown that they're the least likely to go to university. And, you know, it also shows that at the other end, you have Indians, Chinese and Nigerians, pupils who are actually excelling, and women are doing better in general compared to boys. And I don't think they've acknowledged it so far. I mean, I would want them to help this situation because things don't seem to be progressing much better for white working class boys. I do feel like the whole agenda of saying, oh, white privilege, and also the way that they teach British history isn't helping with their, you know, self-esteem. Because if you're constantly told that your skin is an issue, you're not going to have much confidence. And when you think, you know, when you apply for jobs as well, and they're saying, oh, only BAME applicants, no white people allowed, that also is a self-esteem issue as well, because you might think to yourself, why am I bothering to work hard when I'm going to be barred from this job simply for the colour of my skin? And, you know, positive discrimination is still discrimination. And I don't think stuff like that would help. So there's a lot of work to do to help white working class boys in the UK.
Absolutely. And Bridget Phillipson now appears to be wising up to this. It'll be amazing to see what she does about it, though. I mean, Labour seems to be getting a dose of reality, don't it? Which is all very well and good virtue signalling from the side for all these years. We've been fully signed up, card-carrying members of every single piece of positive discrimination that we've ever had in the last 20 years. And then now they're in power. She's like, gosh, those white lads aren't doing well, are they? What could you do about it, really?
As I say, I mean, she'd have to lay out plans as to what she could possibly do. I mean, possibly the way that they teach British history in schools could help, and also look at, you know, funnily enough, making equality better. So white working class boys are treated more fairly in the way that they apply for college, university, and other, you know, even just bursaries and grants, making sure that they have equal rights to get these subsidies that other minorities can get as well. And, you know, I mean, even though it's one voice saying it in Labour, I still don't trust them overall, because you do have one Labour MP who says something sane sometimes, and then behind the scenes, the rest of the cabinet doesn't agree.
Well, quite, yeah. It turns out she misspoke or something. But Chris, thank you very, very much. It's always a real pleasure. By the way, I would just urge everyone. Chris is the owner of, I think, one of the best one of the best X accounts on there. So it's always tremendous for a little. If I'm stuck for material for a monologue, I usually just go on your Twitter account and it writes itself. I nick it shamelessly. Anyway, Chris, take care, mate. Chris Rose there is a Conservative commentator. Right, let's just touch base with my panel on this. I believe someone's shouting the word "The Times" at me. The Times. So we'll do that then. I'm assuming this is Trump, isn't it? I'm going to get some Ukrainian land back. Leo, you appear to be in possession of some information about something that's going on in Ukraine at the minute ahead of this ceasefire deal or whatever.
Yeah, so after the sort of front lines just moving very slowly for the past for a long time since the start of the war, really, Russia is having a breakthrough, and it's interesting. It's coming right at this moment. I think they're throwing everything they can at it. So the Ukrainian trenches, they've got the trenches. They don't have enough infantry to man them. So the Donbass front line, Russia's broken through, not using tanks, using motorcycles and electric scooters, and they've advanced, dozens of kilometres through this. The only problem with that is they don't really have the logistical support. So if Ukraine gets its act together in time, they could take out a lot of Russian troops. But there's the head of the Azov battalion has come out and spoken out against Zelensky, which is quite a big. He's broken ranks and he's criticising Zelensky. The Ukrainians aren't managing their war effort particularly well, and a lot of support for sending more men to the trenches is faltering in Ukraine. Well, and Zelensky was sent to the UK. I think a lot of Ukrainians would like to see him back in charge of the war effort.
Right, OK. Go on.
Well, I think there's two things. First of all, I feel desperate for the Ukrainian people. I feel desperate that their future is to be decided by a here today but probably gone tomorrow president, because if it were Biden, this conversation wouldn't be happening, and it's Trump, the conversation is happening, and then somebody else is going to take over. I find it shocking for that. I admire the Ukrainian people. The Russians were going to take 10 seconds, right? As it is, it's 3 years, and now Ukrainians are now making about 50-60% of their own arms, and we should support them with every single bomb that we have, right? We should not give, under any circumstances, to that pig Putin.
OK, just before I go to you, Benjamin, we're going to have to be quite quick. Sorry, I do want to include the latest line that we're getting from President Trump on this. Here it is.
But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap, because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody, to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both.
OK, well, it's something, isn't it? Benjamin, go on, your take on it.
Well, apparently Zelensky has said Donetsk, Kherson, Crimea could be up for negotiation. But the truth is, that is only possible with a vote of the Ukrainian people, because it would be a constitutional amendment. I think most of us in Europe would say that would be a shameful day to allow that to happen.
Well, it could also potentially be quite revealing, actually, if the Ukrainian people did decide to vote overwhelmingly for that.
Yeah,
but we'll find out.
And also, Europe needs to pull its finger out and do things properly, instead of messing around and spending 10 times as much on net zero than it does supporting the front line of the war against Europe.
Yeah. OK, there we go. Right, coming up in just a moment.
And it is all but over! Goal to Great Britain, awesome! The gold medal!
We are the best tuggers in the world. Absolutely fantastic. We tug better than anyone else. It's official now. We've got a gold medal for tugging. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, the heat wave continues across much of Europe. Plenty of hot sunshine to come. Could trigger 1 or 2 thunderstorms in places, particularly during the evening and overnight periods, but plenty of sunshine to come by day. Eastern Mediterranean temperatures reaching the mid to high 30s in places. 1 or 2 showers possible across Spain and Portugal inland, but coastal stretches temperatures well above average in that sunshine. And it remains hot and sunny for the rest of the week, temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, welcome back, everybody, to Late Edition. Let's just start with the Sun. Brooklyn Beckham, everyone, a man of absolutely no discernible talents whatsoever. He won the Luckiest Sperm of the Year award when he became David Beckham and Victoria Beckham's first child, and he's decided to, apparently it would seem, cut ties with the family, marry a billionaire. Well, that's good. And yeah, it's all a bit bad, isn't it, Calvin? This.
Well, I think it's a bit desperate of the Sun to have to take up the whole front page of it. I mean, normally it's some big event that happens on this, and I don't know whether to feel sorry for Mr. Beckham and his wife, because actually they caught publicity left, right and centre. And now they're seeing that publicity is an uncontrollable beast. And now they're being humiliated. Either, I agree with you, why does he want to do this? Right. So the other bet I would have, if I were a gambling man, would be that we will be looking at a different picture in a couple of years' time, which is both of them looking very gloomy and also getting divorced. But however, Brooklyn should be looking quite smart, unless he signed a prenup. right? In which case, he'll be doubly gloomy because he'll get no money.
Yes,
and then he'll have to put himself on the market. And what will the queue be for a bloke who can't, as you point out, can't cook, can't take pictures, and actually he's probably going to seed as well? I mean,
we'll have robots to do it by then. Will he actually need? Will he need the alimony? Because he's David Beckham's kid. He's going to get, I don't know, a
but he's not. But she is a billionaire's daughter. I mean, David Beckham is only worth 50 million or 100 million.
No, he's worth £500 million.
Is he? Whoa. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. I've been corrected by my accountant.
It's like CNN. I'm here to fact check.
Yeah, that can get you almost a round of drinks in London these days.
Yeah,
he's going to have no problems.
I mean, he lives. I've looked this up, and he lives in an £11 million mansion in Los Angeles, mainly funded by Nicola, the wife. He apparently, reportedly, is worth £8 million. He's 26 years old.
Why is he
Instagram?
Why is he worth £8 million then?
Well, you wonder whether the parents bought a house or something. Because I don't know how many. He did a book of photography.
Yeah.
I don't know how many copies that sold. But then you'll get paid. He's got millions of followers, and you'll get paid a fortune for little brand deals. So I reckon the money adds up quick.
Fair. Well, there we go. Watch this space when it comes to the fallout of the Beckhams. But anyway, we've pulled it off. Britain are world champions in tug-of-war. The sport is the world's most ancient discipline, pretty much, and is among dozens recognised by the International Olympic Committee. With a squad ranging in age from 23 to 72, Britain's men's team held
I could have been on it.
to grapple. I think it takes a 72-year-old longer to tug. Anyway, held on tightly to grapple their way to a gold medal on Saturday, dethroning the defending champions, Switzerland. Leo's got your name written all over it.
Yeah, no, this is something that Britain can be proud of. We've got, in this corner of the world, we've got very high grip strength. You might have noticed this yourself, but if you compare our grip strength to countries like Pakistan or India, a Pakistani man has the same grip strength on average as an English woman.
Right. Yeah. These are just facts, aren't they? No, it's important. These are just facts, aren't they?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Great stuff. Well, there's no other real way to say it. We've won the Tug-of-War World Championship, so well done. OK, let's go to the Sun. The Sun's front page. This is a roundup of what day is it? Tuesday's newspaper front page is Monday. No, but it's on Tuesday. Oh, right. There you go. To have and to grow, to hold a grow to the Sun. Daily Express, 50,000 migrant boat arrivals under Labour. The Eye, don't trust Putin. Starmer warns Trump as Zelensky cut out of Crunch Ukraine summit. Metro, 11 attacks a day on A&E nurses. Independent, an attack on truth and freedom. Daily Mirror, none for the road. It's a change of drink driving laws, amongst other things. The Guardian, the truth has died. Global fury as Israeli strike kills journalists. Daily Mail, A&E waits fuel 4,000 attacks on NHS staff every single year. So there we are. Well, that is all of your newspaper front page. If you're watching the roundup tomorrow morning, the replay tomorrow morning, then breakfast is next. So make sure that you tune in for that. It'll be a lively show, plenty for them to go at, isn't there? Thank you very much to our wonderful panel. Always an absolute pleasure to have you all on. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow. Take care.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The fourth heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain eventually pushing northeastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across this south slowly edging its way northeastwards across Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius. So a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland. But mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours. But across the south, it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be plenty of blue skies. But once again, some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dublin are coming up on the show tonight.
The invasion, and I use the word invasion because that is exactly what it is, of hundreds and thousands of undocumented men is placing women and girls in grave danger.
Well, they're calling it an invasion on tonight's show. I'll be joined in the studio by one of Reform UK's politicians leading the charge to protect women as the party holds its latest event in its Broken Britain campaign. And on that note, some astonishing, shock new polling seen exclusively by GB News has revealed something very, very sinister about how our pensioners are feeling in the UK around their safety. Heartbreaking data, eye-opening data, something we need to act upon. I'll be speaking to the man man who made this astonishing discovery. Meanwhile, on a move of mass bureaucratic sorcery, 150,000 migrants have simply gone missing, and you're not going to believe how. Plus,
the net overall cost is therefore £3.4 billion overall.
£3.4 billion, I hear you saying. Well, was the Prime Minister telling the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Or was it half-truths or even one-tenth truths? And he said that was the cost of the Chagos deal. We'll also be looking at how Sir Keir Starmer could be facing the same fate as Sir Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, beg your pardon, amidst new allegations of misleading the House of Commons over his Chagos deal. Welcome to the show. Just gave Boris Johnson a premature knighthood there. Now, on tonight's show, I'll also be joined in the studio by GBNews' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson throughout the show. That means we're going to have a few good old ding-dongs. But first, here's the latest news bulletins with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 7:02. A fresh government effort to deport foreign national offenders is the sort of stuff that they should have been doing on day one. That's according to the leader of the Conservative Party. Kemi Badenoch made the comments as more foreign criminals will be deported before their appeals are heard, as the Home Office adds 15 new countries to its Deport Now, Appeal Later scheme. Canada, India and Australia are among the new additions, taking the total to 23, with Home Secretary Yvette Cooper vowing to stop offenders exploiting our immigration system and fast-track removals. Also today, Kemi Badenoch has suggested migrants currently housed in hotels could instead be held in camps, as the number of English Channel small boat migrants nears 50,000 since Sir Keir Starmer took office. President Trump says he will tell Vladimir Putin to end his war in Ukraine during his meeting with the Russian leader on Friday. The president described Friday's summit as a feel-out meeting. He added that some land swapping will happen for the good of both Ukraine and Russia. The president went on to say that he wants to set up a meeting between Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that he would try to get some territory back for Ukraine. President Trump said it was not up to him to make a deal. That's as President Zelensky has said tonight that Ukrainian intelligence shows that Putin has no plans to end the war.
But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap, because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody, to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both.
Well, the president made those comments during a press conference where he announced that he's deploying National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. as part of his plan to, quote, rescue the capital city from crime. The president declared it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., saying the city will be cleared up very quickly. During the president's announcement, members of the Free D.C. organisation held a rally outside the White House against the measures. 3 teenagers have been arrested over the murder of a man at a seaside resort. Kent police said the man in his 40s died after being attacked during an altercation on the